I'm really excited that we get to spend our time today talking about the power of our bodies. So it's going to be an awesome time. I'm just going to give people some more time to come on and get settled in. I always advocate that we kind of check in with ourselves. What do we need when we sit down in a space to learn? Do you need to go grab a glass of water? Do you need to grab a cup of tea? Do you need a cozy blanket? Do you need to lie down in bed and listen to it while you lie down? I mean, is that a thing? Is that something that you need to be able to just really receive the information? So, while we let people come in and come on, just kind of check in with yourself. What do I need in this moment? What do I need so that I can receive the information from a non-stressed place and a non-achievement place, just a receiving place? So give yourself a moment and check in with that. Good morning, Renee. It's so lovely seeing people come on and seeing your names pop up on this Saturday morning and our chance to dive into a deeper connection with our body, a true deep connection. That's what this class is all about. It's what menopause is all about. So I'm really excited to share. So, yeah, as you come on, if you want to pop in a little hello, you're welcome to in the chat. And even if you want to share a little what you're grateful for this morning, it's one of my practices every morning for sure, is tuning into what I'm grateful for today. So if you want to start your day and this process out with a little gratitude for yourself and for life, you are completely invited to do so. Because it's a pretty awesome existence we have, even in the most challenging of times. The miracles are abundant. So, and as we get started, I think most of you know who I am, but of course, there may be people here who it's almost like I'm brand new to you. So, longer days of sunlight, such a great celebration, isn't it, Claire? I noticed too this morning, like I was like, the sun is up, and it was like 7:05 or something. I was just like, oh, and yeah, doesn't that feel so good? It's just like, oh my gosh, our human self is so attuned to that, like delightful. The sun's coming back. I'm with you on that one. Yeah. Grateful for my life. Yeah, right. Sometimes it's like I'm grateful for my being alive today and this life and all the blessings in it. Such a good one. I love that. Thanks for sharing, you guys. If you're new to me, I am Dr. Julie Toomoon. In case I doubt you thought I was anyone else, being that this is a class that I promoted, but um my background in terms of like degree is that I'm a naturopathic medical doctor. And I also have a master's of science in Oriental medicine. And I've spent over 20 years practicing Chinese medicine, practicing naturopathic medicine. And over the years, the practice has expanded for me. It really moved beyond the way I began was like any newbie naturopath. I mean, you really don't know what you're doing. So you, you dabble in many things to try to see like what's my way of practice, what resonates with me. And I began with things like functional medicine and those kind of practices, which actually quickly grew. They were boring to me because they weren't focused on harnessing the vital force of the body. They were focused on finding out where all the problems were and then kind of wrangling the problems. And so that's not my soul's path to work that way. It's definitely some people's soul's path, but it's not mine. So over time, it really expanded into this deep practice of really questioning what was the body really saying? What was she trying to get us to see? And it all arose out of this connection I have to the intimate wonder that is our body. Our Our body is literally God language. I don't know if you guys know, but your DNA, when they write out the base pairs that make up DNA sequences, when linguists have evaluated it, they look at it and say, that follows the same sort of rules that are found in every language on the planet. So DNA is literally language, which is part of that notion. Like our body's not just a random collection of cells. Our body is, from the base level of who we are, is a language. It's sacred language. It's us being spoken into existence. And so that really drove me to look through those eyes of like, if this body is sacred language being spoken into existence, then why would I operate like she's broken or flawed? Why would I keep looking for where the fracture is? And why wouldn't I look for how can I harness that divine language more? And that has guided me over the years. I have studied so many things, added them to my toolbox. Even now, I'm studying and apprenticing in alchemical Chinese medicine, which is a much deeper, more classical, very transformative way of looking through the lens of Chinese medicine. So even for me, it keeps expanding. It keeps expanding. Because in the path of that divine connection work as the cornerstone of what the body is and what she does, there's always another layer. That's actually the magic of it. Your life can keep getting more and more expansive. Your health can get more expansive. Your experience of yourself in the universe can get bigger and more on purpose. And that is the reason I believe that most people end up with things to heal, is because their soul is saying, oh my gosh, let's find a way to inspire the connection and the action that moves the needle and brings that life force into full expression. So that's what guides me, just to give you perspective on what do I think about when I think about health and healing and the processes of it, and the guide for what I'm going to be talking about here today. So yeah, Tanya, grateful that we have a roof over our head and food in the fridge, right? Like it's those simple things, and then just really feeling that deep gratitude. Those are the places I love to spend my energy and my time. So today's conversation is going to be about the magic of your body. It's all about that infinite wonder. The intent of today's class is to give you the ability to begin to view the process of menopause and the changes that our body goes through with a lens of awe and appreciation and gratitude, and to dissolve much of the fear. Because what really prompted me to know that it was time to bring this class was that I kept seeing people talk about menopause and what they were listening to on podcasts about menopause. There was all this like fear-based. I mean, it was just like this impending doom seemed to be the theme. And it was making me so sad, because I saw all these women and I had clients coming to me saying, well, so and so on such and such podcast said, if you don't do X, then your bones are going to fail and your heart's going to fail and your brain's going to fail and you're going to end up with cancer. And so they were starting to freak out that fear is infectious. And I want to be a force of infectious creativity, love, and expansiveness in the world. So I knew it was time to have this conversation so that we could dispel the myths and actually point you in the direction of what really moves the needle. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what all the patterns are in menopause, what your body's likely trying to convey. And then we're also going to talk about how simple things you could begin to address each of the core pieces of that, because of course it's a big topic, but I really want you to be able to have traction and a true sense of a way to move forward. So that's my intent with this. So I think the first thing is to understand, like, what is menopause? I mean, yes, it is a hormonal transition. I think that's actually one of the smaller parts of menopause, if you want to know the truth. So years ago, when I was getting my master's degree and I was studying Chinese medicine, I remember I was only in my 20s. So I mean menopause was not on radar, right? I mean, I was having my first child. So I remember though, a lot of the doctors who taught me Chinese medicine had not been in the States very long. My teacher, Heiner Fruhoff, had curated the program that I was in, and he had studied in China, even though he isn't Chinese. And he had, met various very skilled doctors. And as he curated the program, we needed, of course, like experts. And so he ended up, some of our teachers were from China, so they were brought over to teach. And when we would do our clinical studies and see patients in the clinic under their tutelage, I remember, especially if they were newer to the States, and women would come in, expressing really horrific menopausal symptoms. They would be a little perplexed, not because Chinese medicine doesn't have an explanation for what was happening, but they said, women in China don't suffer like this. Like this is not their experience. They're not just having all of these life-altering symptoms. And they were just really like, you could see that they were trying to sort out like, why is it so intense here? Like, why are these women suffering so much? And I don't recall them ever like giving, their own explanation for why that would be. But as I've journeyed forward in medicine and seen thousands of patients, and then, I'm in perimenopause myself, and I've worked with many women through menopause, what I notice is that there's something else that they told us that plays a key role here. So they also shared that when they first came to this country, they thought, oh my God, I didn't know the United States was so healthy. Everyone looks so good. Their eyes are clear, their skin is clear, their hair is shiny. And then they got into a clinic and had some of those same very healthy looking people come through the door, and they assessed them in that model. And they were like, oh my goodness, like these people are so sick. They're so sick. Their bodies are so deregulated. And they realized that there were many ways that are kind of built into our society to make us look vital when we are in fact anything but. And they said, this is so weird because I think most Americans are walking around thinking that they're pretty good, when in fact, they're like their chi is getting depleted. We'll talk about chi. Their blood is getting depleted. We're going to talk about blood. And they said, my goodness, there's so much work to do here. And I believe that this is a big key factor in that we don't notice, or we're well coached to not notice the things that our body tries to tell us ahead of time. So when we reach the transition of menopause, our body's giving us an invitation. Most all of the symptoms that we associate with menopause are the way our body is languaging and ask, will you come home and really come alive in me? Will you really partner? Will you really see my magic? Will you really see your own magic? Will you really let that soar in your life? And I believe that part of the reason why this comes through at this time is that we're entering this really the second half of our life. And in Chinese medicine, they say that, your life is really like a curriculum that your soul came here to do. So lessons you came here to learn, or contributions you came here to make, or growth you came here to do. And if we've been maybe focused other places up until that point, and that other focus has also kind of done a little bit of depletion in our body, which we're going to talk about, then we're left with a whole lot of disarray. And when we reach this time, I actually feel like it's our spirit calling us forward to, will you remember the work that you actually came here to do, the contributions you came here to give, the growth you came here to experience, or just the connection that you came here to experience? I believe some of us didn't come here to like start a movement or write, best-selling novels or make an invention. Some of us came here to come alive, like to really honor the aliveness in us. For some people, I think that that might be the sole reason why their existence is here and available. And so even that is a calling, at least in my book. It's not about you came here to make tons of money, although some people did, or to be a mom or any of those things. Like, it might be to a degree, but there's more. And I feel like menopause is like where our spirit and our body partner to pull back the curtain and say, here's the things I need you to see. And to me, that is a sacred thing, that there is such a gift as my own aliveness being willing to challenge me so that I will remember. And that's what this time can serve us. That's what can happen here. So it's all about your vitality, your organs, the essences that make up your body, and the things that they need shifting. Now, there's also the choice to look at it as the sky's falling, my ovaries are failing, I'm now turning old, I'm going to get dried up and disgusting. And if I don't do something about all these problems, my bones are going to fail, my heart's going to fail, my brain's going to fail, I'm going to get sick. Life is all about choices. And truly, like, I'm a big advocate of make the choice that is actually most aligned for you. So if you really don't feel like at this time you can even entertain the notion that there could be more to this, maybe shelve this class and come back to it another time, because I'm going to ask you to believe in the infinite nature of your body. I'm going to ask you to believe in the infinite nature of your being, and believe in the infinite nature of your spirit and the wisdom that is available to you, and that our life has a curriculum, it has a purpose, and our body is part of that purpose. So, because each symptom of menopause is an invitation to awareness, one of the things is that let's talk about the key players in the menopausal process. So, spleen is the first. I'm going to go through each of them and then I'll go through what it means. Spleen, the organs of spleen. Yes, I know in Western medicine we don't talk about spleen, but we're going to talk about spleen today. And liver and kidney. We're also talking about chi and blood, the balance of yin and yang, the role of dampness in the body, and emotions. So there's a lot of key players. And maybe to some of you that's good news, because whenever there's many pieces, there's lots of options. And maybe to some of you that's a little daunting because there's so much there, but fret not. So our spleen is, in Chinese medicine, each of the organs has an elemental relationship. Our spleen is sort of the cornerstone of the earth network that also includes the stomach and the pancreas because it's looped in. And your spleen being an earth organ is all about the alchemy of the body. So it is the spleen's job in Chinese medicine to be able to greet the food that you eat and grab the life force energy out of it and then send it off to be distributed, which means it's an alchemical center of your body. And even when we diagram all the organs, spleen is central. It's like home. It's that nourished center from which, all things are fed. So in that regard, the spleen is so cornerstone. And it is all about that ability to harness the life force of nature in and around you. It is also associated with muscle strength and integrity and tissue integrity. So this draws us into like vascular integrity, which is something people talk about in menopause, and tissue strength and maintaining your muscle mass. And it's also associated with emotions. Like, it can be emotions of like feeling really centered in compassion, or it could be us stuck in worry. So if the spleen is weak or out of alignment, you may find yourself becoming an excessive overthinker, lots of worry, you're perseverating all the time, you just can't get things out of your head. The liver, our next organ, is a wood-based organ, which means, again, Chinese medicine, they all have an elemental characteristic. And the liver is all about movement in the body. It is the organ in Chinese medicine associated with keeping the blood moving, keeping the qi moving. And so it's all this aspect of flow. And what happens in menopause is that women find like, oh, my flow is diminishing, not just the menstrual flow, but actually like the sense of flow in their life and in their self. The liver is also associated with tendons. So if you're like me, you've seen all the Facebook ads for, tendinopathy associated with menopause, which is really the liver being stuck in stasis, the liver becoming deficient, the blood not moving. That's what's happening there. So it's not just a hormone that you're missing, it's actually a process that's not happening. And so the liver is all about this ease and being able to also implement and put things into action. So it's no wonder many women reach menopause with a tired liver because their liver's been doing the overdrive work. Like you're always on task, you're always on the go, you're always trying to solve a problem or wrangle the next thing, which can be beautiful. But if that's done out of balance, you're really taxing your liver. And then guess what? Liver's not going to detox very well. So all those things that people worry about, my detox pathways and my all the conjugation and how am I going to deal with all the toxins? Well, it is not helping to be on go mode all the time. If it's balanced, you feel like this overwhelming like kindness in the world. If it's out of balance, you're kind of angry, filled with rage and frustration. We live in a wood society, so it's no wonder we see a lot of that rage and frustration kind of as a cornerstone of how the world works. That's part of that liver element expression. Then we have kidneys, because kidneys are our longevity pool. They are associated with the water element. They store the information. The kidneys also store your soul's curriculum. So it's your kidney water that if it gets depleted, which it gets depleted by the same things we've been talking about in terms of the more taxed the organs get, the more depleted. And if we're always in go mode, we end up depleting and draining the kidney. And if the kidney is feeling peaceful, we feel peaceful. But if the kidney is overtaxed, we feel fearful. So there's a lot of fear-based expression in the world, and that's that kidney energy. If the kidneys get depleted too, there's a lot of physical signs, and we'll get to those in a minute. Your chi is your life force essence. It's the language of energy in your body. It's what circulates. And if your chi is in circulation, you're alive. And if it's not, you're not. So we need robust chi. We need it to circulate. Your blood, because the blood is the storehouse of the shen of your spirit. And if the blood is sufficient, guess what? You feel incredible. You feel connected. You feel tapped in. You have energy. You feel clear and bright and glowy. And if the blood is deficient, you don't feel that way. Then the balance of yin and yang, which is really the balance of the essence of feminine and masculine. And so this is another key theme here, and we're going to talk more about that. Then dampness, because dampness is the outcome of stuffed emotions and overriding our body impulses and not learning to listen to her voice and depleting ourselves so much that there's nothing left. Dampness is the result of that. And dampness shows up as, heaviness and weight and feeling sticky and stuck in life. So it's another key facet. And then we've got emotion. You can't talk about anything with the body if you don't bring in emotion. So we're not going to touch deeply on it here because it's literally a whole other class. But I will say that emotions, things that we've stuffed into the tissues that we didn't know how to feel, they are a big part of this experience. Now, someone is thinking like, but like truly menopause medically is like my ovaries stop producing estrogen, progesterone at the same rate. And so it's really my hormones in decline. So why aren't we talking about hormones? So what are the ovaries? In Chinese medicine, the ovaries are part of sort of a network that is all about the wisdom. I mean, if you think about it, the ovaries are direct through the ancestral lineage, and they contain the language of your entire life and self, but also your entire ancestral language. They are like little mini portals of God language because, I mean, your eggs formed when you were inside your own mother, hers formed inside her grandmother. Like it's literally the portal to the infinite language of the divine that can express in our life as abundance and as connection and flow and ease. And then if we choose to have children, and then we pass that forward. So this idea of diminished production is about the waning of the life force, and you actually can do something about that. And the funny thing is that when we do, the expression is a diminishing or an absence of the menopausal symptoms. So women who have balanced chi and blood and their organs are healthy, they don't experience horrific menopausal symptoms. So is it the hormones and the natural decline that's inevitable, or is it the way that we're taken care of in our body? I had a client come to me, her name is Sarah, who had been experiencing horrific menopausal symptoms. And because of a bunch of family history stuff, she didn't want to have to go on hormones. But, she had the hot flashes and the crankiness and the sleeplessness and the no libido, and she felt dried out. And what we found is that her body was really stuck. Her chi was deficient, her blood was deficient, her spleen was deficient, her liver was deficient, her kidney was deficient. And her cells were so stuck in stress mode. And when we use some of the same techniques I'm going to teach you here to shift that, her menopausal symptoms went away. So, I raised the question for you to ponder. Was it the inevitable failure of the ovaries? Because we didn't do hormones. It's not like we ran a Dutch test and then put her on a bunch of hormones to regulate the dysfunction. We didn't test her hormones at all. We treated what the body was showing us were her challenges and the places where she was asking us for connection. So as we did that, the menopausal symptoms abated. Why? Because the body was actually asking for balance. She wasn't asking for hormones. If we keep looking at the body through the lens of failure, we'll only see the option for failure. But if we look through the lens of curiosity and partnering, then we'll actually see the places that she's inviting us to partner. So let's look at all the different symptoms that go with a challenge in each of those systems. So if you have challenge at the spleen, you might feel really tired. Your muscles might start to get weak, or even you'll start losing muscle mass. They might be sore. You might have like body pain that isn't related to activity. You might have like fibro type symptoms. Your brain might be foggy. Your digestion can get weak. You could have food sensitivities developing, bleeding gums, easy bleeding, wrinkles, and weight gain. So that's almost like the who's who of menopausal complaint. And if you notice, it wasn't like, that's the next sign that you should take XYZ hormone. It's like, that's a spleen chi deficiency. Imagine too that if it's deeper than just the hormone and you ignore that by just, someone saying, well, everyone needs to take this or do this, but you don't dive into like, oh, what else does that organ need? Then the things, all the things attached to that are going to continue to deplete. So that organ, if not replenished, continues to deplete. Adding estrogen to that experience does not make the spleen chi stronger. So adding testosterone doesn't make the spleen chi stronger, or DHEA. It's not the way it works. And so although you might abate symptoms, you're not actually addressing cause, which means that those things are still going to kind of smolder in the background, and they can create a lot of challenges. Weak spleen can lead to, early aging and the weakness, which can also decline your vital essence, your chi, and then that draws you deeper away from life. If the liver is taxed, which comes from pushing all the time in life, always being on task, you will likely end up either on one or both sides at the same time. So a stuckness in the movement or a deficiency in the movement. So the deficiency can show up as like blurry vision, dry eyes, insomnia, sleep issues, dry skin, dry hair. And then the stasis issues might present as more aspects of body pain, tightness in your tendons, anger, frustration, depression. So you see one person, because I've been in this world a long time, some people list those as like, these are all the signs that you need this hormone. But this is bigger than the hormone. The hormone is this tiny speck in the midst of this whole array of wondrous change that's available to you. But we have to learn how to take that action. If the kidney is weak or taxed, you might have low back pain, joint pains, weak knees, sleep issues, bladder issues, or issues with swelling, excessive gray hair, or even starting to really look old, which is huge. If your blood is weak, then you might have dizziness, issues with being like dizzy, going from sitting to standing. You might have a history of hard periods. You might have a history of blood clots or clotty periods, which also relates to emotions. You might have hot flashes, low libido, and weakness. If the chi is deficient, you might feel weak, low motivation, low inspiration, don't feel like interacting or talking to people. You want to lie down a lot. If your yin yang is out of balance, you might have episodes of hot and cold and sweating and insomnia and dream disturbed sleep. If you're accumulating dampness or your dampness is having to substitute for energy, you might have weight gain, feel sluggish, sweating issues, have like pale, kind of flabby skin, coating on your tongue, digestive issues. And if you're filled with stagnant emotion, you might be experiencing or have a history of like PMS, PMDD, clotting with your periods, sore breasts, easy frustration, lack of trust, lack of belief in your body, disdain even for the work of having to take care of your body because it just feels like another kind of thing dragging at you. But it can also show up autoimmune, blood sugar, digestive, cardiac, sleep, pain. I have to say that if this is why I commonly say, if you're not going to address emotions as you address the body, you're going to miss a whole layer that is actually likely tying everything together, because we need to be addressing anything that experience in the body. We need to address by doing physical action, energetic action, and emotional action, because it's always going to be all of them together. And failure to do so is why I see people like they enact a new process, they feel better for a time, and then it cycles back and kind of bangs them upside the head, and they have to almost feel like they have to reinvent the wheel. That's because the stagnant emotions are ruling the show, and it's like they're filling up all the spaces where your life force is supposed to go. Now, the other thing that a lot of people worry about in menopause is the bones. So let's talk about that as a whole separate thing. So bones, bone deterioration, osteoporosis, guess what? It all relates to long-term chronic stress response, and there's medical proof for this. So recent studies are showing that when we enter a stress state, our body produces osteocalcin, which is a hormone that then is part of the whole stress cascade, which also impacts the use of minerals at the bone. And so a lot of people are saying like, well, if you don't take estrogen, you're going to have weak bones, but they're missing the fact that the weakness of the bones is a stress response outcome. Estrogen is not going to change the cell stress response. It might make your experience of it different, but it's not altering the pathway function. And so the challenge there is that our bones are constantly depleted as we go through life. Mind you, most women hit menopause or perimenopause. They've technically been in a stress state for the last 30 years. They become so adapted to it, they don't even recognize it's happening. And I know this for fact because I test women's cells and their cell responses and the level of cell stress response in every woman that works with me privately one-to-one or in my groups. And what I see over and over and over are cells that have been stuck in an extreme stress response for decades that we've become so maladapted to. This was true even when I first had my own cells assessed. My cells were so deep in stress response. And truly, if you had asked any of my patients, like, is she stressed? They'd be like, oh my God, no, she's so chill. She's so chill. She's never stressed. And they were right. I was so adapted to the stress response that I presented as really peaceful, very balanced, like emotionally, mentally, physically. But my cells were inside just clenched tight and feeling so burdened by what they were left to carry, which was that I was blood deficient, chi deficient. My spleen was not as strong as that it ideally would be. And really, I had a ton of stagnant emotions sitting in my body. So just note that many people hear me say stress response and goes, "Oh, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not stressed. My life is perfect. I'm not stressed." But the truth is that most of the time we're no longer aware of what our body perceives, and this is about the body. So what might stress our body out other than, because I've had women say, "I don't have to work." Like, I have plenty of all the things that we think would cause stress, like jobs and money, and I have a husband who loves me, etc. But their relationship with their body has not been one of partnership. So they haven't been deferring to her wisdom. They've been pushing her. They've been, saying yes to too many things or no to things that they really needed to say yes to, or not following their passions, not engaging their creativity. Those also are things that create a cell stress response. So I just want to put that in perspective so that you get the picture. So why is menopause so miserable? I mean, if you maybe are already seeing it because there's so much impact happening in our body that goes kind of unnoticed as we're kind of building our life. And then we hit a point where our body's like, I need you to see this now, because if we don't do this now, we're going to crash into illness. And so that's part of it. But it's because we don't live in a system that has ever encouraged us to build our bodies the way that they love to be built. The other thing that happened when I was in school was I and a few other of my colleagues had children while we were crazy enough getting 2 graduate level degrees at the same time. So let's add a kid on top of it. But, when you're in your 20s, you feel invincible. So the doctors were very concerned about, the naturopathic principle of nursing your babies for a long time, which I had that commitment that I had made. My friends did as well. But they were concerned about our blood. And I'll be honest, I thought, my God, these guys, like they don't get it. You have to nurse a baby for a long time. It's best for them. But they were looking at us and already seeing blood deficient humans. And they were like, but you don't have the blood for that. I went kind of right over my head, even though I was studying Chinese medicine, because my arrogance got in the way. And they were really saying, like, you need to learn how to nourish the blood more. You need to not nurse so long. You need to do these things. So I didn't listen. And I know lots of colleagues that didn't listen. Here's the thing, though. It's not about not nursing our babies a long time. It's about knowing how to nourish the blood and having that as an institutional parameter, which we don't. And the reason why they were hammering it so hard is because if you don't have nourished blood and you hit menopause and you're blood deficient, it is arduous, because nourishing the blood is not like a take this pill for 5 days and your blood is nourished, or do this thing for a few days and your blood is nourished. It's not slather on progesterone and estrogen and testosterone and your blood is nourished. Not the way it works. It's actually can be a very complex and persistent process. And what they were really hammering about was that they could see the writing on the wall. You do this way, you're going to be really upset with how you feel over there. But when you're 26, you're not thinking about menopause. You're not thinking about what could that be like. And so I literally have spent the last 10 plus years deeply replenishing my blood, and I'm still working on it because I have had 3 kids. I nursed them all. I had a lot of reasons to draw down the blood sufficiency in my body. And I have women who've had like 6 kids, and we've been working on their blood for ages, and it's a multifocal approach, and we're probably going to be working on it for the rest of their life, because the work should have been done with the first kid and then with the time between the kids, and it wasn't. So it's not a part of our medical system. So I just want to bring that in. But also, in Chinese medicine, they say if you haven't given enough attention to the work that your soul knows you came here to do, then it's going to push you to do the work. But also, if it isn't getting done, what happens towards the end of our life is that all the stuff that's undone, all the lessons we didn't learn or the teachings we didn't grasp, they say they actually literally go in through a particular point on the body so that they can mesh with our essence, so that then we have a chance to learn them in whatever comes next, whether that's, I'm not ascribing to any particular belief path there, but they will say it passes, so that maybe we have another lifetime, or maybe that's when we go on to the spirit world. Like we have to learn these lessons, but it also passes then into our lineage. And this is another facet, that the energetic lineage that some of us are walking out is because we have tons of ancestors who didn't get the chance to do their work because no one was talking about it. I mean, where do we have these conversations? Like, your soul's work in this lifetime is directly connected to your body experience. It's not a thing. So that's part of it, that our body's spurring us forward, like, don't pass this on to your energetically to your generations. Don't do that. Like, do the work now. That's part of it. Plus, our spirit's like, do the work that we came here to do, please. Like, don't get distracted by like social media and shiny objects and TV, and like do the soul work that you came here to do, for goodness sake. Like, do it, do it, do it. That's the other call. And also, that's our body going, I don't want you to decline into illness and spend the last 30, 40 years of your life like hobbled with sickness because you didn't know that you had a silent stress response. You didn't know that you were depleting your blood. You didn't know you were depleting your chi. Like, pay attention now. So I feel like that's why I see it as an invitation to the magic. If you simply put on hormones, you might miss the growth opportunity. Also, a totally good decision. Not that I don't actually think there's good and bad, but it's a great decision for you if that's what you feel called to do. But my intent is to open the door to, but what if there was more and you got to feel incredible and balanced and do the work of your life curriculum? So hormones can totally be used. There are times that I use things. I sometimes use progesterone. Sometimes I use pregnenolone, but I don't do it outside of this other work. That's the key. I do it as an adjunct to the work, not as the focus of the treatment plan. It's like, here, we can support a little doing this, not here, this will take away all of your symptoms. Because I don't actually want to take away the symptoms. I want to spur the body into aliveness so that the symptoms resolve because the body's more vital. And that's the way my clients experience it. Like, I just had a client a couple weeks ago celebrating that when she started with me, she was cranky, digestive problems, sleep problems, hot flashes, no libido. She's like, I don't have hot flashes. I sleep. I go to the bathroom. Guess what? We didn't ply her full of hormones. We actually worked on these background things that she said she actually didn't even realize. Like, it's not normal to not go to the bathroom every day. It becomes so normal. So that's another sign, or I guess symbol, is that we get so used to the dysfunction that we don't even recognize that it's not, that it's our body saying, like, this isn't ideal. We actually think of it as our body turning on us. Your body never turns on you. She just keeps inviting you to pay attention. The more that we ignore the experience, the more she has to up the ante of the communication of what she's telling you. So learning to understand it that way is also key to be able to partner with her. So how do we solve it? I'm going to go through each of those key pieces and give you one tool for each, because you can probably guess, listening to me, there's is a lot here to pay attention to. But even if I'm 100% certain, even if you made each of the shifts associated with these, you would be amazed at what your body does in response. Even that. These are the same tools that I use with clients that I'm working with one-to-one and in group. These are the same tools that I put as foundational pieces to help them shift, and then we build on that according to their patterns. So the first challenge point is the spleen. Our spleen wants to be warm, like earth under a delightfully warm summer afternoon sky, or grain growing in a field where it's just like luscious, and you know that smell of like a wheat field where it's just like, oh my God, like that, there's an aroma that to me is amazing. So we want to build that earth network, like good soil. And so the biggest key for doing this, and it sounds way too simple, I'm aware, is a ton daily of cooked vegetables. So by a ton, I mean 6 to 9 cups of cooked vegetables a day. People always go, that can't be it when they talk to me. And I will tell you that Chinese medicine has spoken about the need for cooked foods for thousands of years. One day I had a woman in my clinic who was suffering from a lot of dampness and some menopausal symptoms. And her favorite lunch was a huge salad with tofu and some other things on it. She was a vegetarian. And I literally had her do one suggestion: change out your raw salad and any other places you're doing raw foods for cooked vegetables, and warm up your tofu in that case. And she sent me an email a couple weeks later and she says, I don't know how you did that, but like all the symptoms are gone just by shifting to lots of cooked vegetables and like not eating the cold raw foods. And she's just one example of many at how profound this can be. Cooked vegetables are high in mineral contents. You're getting food-based minerals, which actually helps remineralize the body and sets a foundational piece for your cells to feel safe to use the nutrients and use the minerals. The warm cooked foods are nourishing the spleen, which helps the spleen feel supported, which makes it easier for her to grab the life force energy from the food and distribute it to the other organs, which means you're also feeding your other organs life force energy. It doesn't take effort, so you're not expending energy to do that digestion. It also activates the alchemy of the body, and it also helps build the blood and nourish the liver. You honestly can't get much simpler than that. It's like stupidity how simple it is. Now, I had a client, her name is Carol, that came to work with me with horrific menopausal symptoms, and she had a histamine intolerance issue. And the people she'd been working with before had like taken her off all the histamine foods, and they'd taken her off all this stuff, and they were giving her hormones, and they were doing all these things, and she was miserable, and she felt like her life was like one tiny cage. And so we honestly set up this plan with this as the focus, 6 to 9 cups of cooked vegetables per day. And she agreed kind of begrudgingly because it was like, really, that's like the magic, everyone always eye rolls me at this point. So, but as she did this, within a few months, she had found that she had energy, she had clarity, she felt incredible in her skin. And then she had to go away and travel, and she didn't get as much of her cooked vegetables. And she noticed there was like a spark that wasn't as alive. And she was like, this is insane, because everyone had me on all these crazy complex diets. And this one change is like literally a thing that drives the tone of my experience every single day. And I have had hundreds of clients say the same thing. Like they're like, I don't know why this works, but it does. So you do yourself a favor and get yourself a bunch of vegetables. You could even do frozen, a little less energetically alive, but it's a great solution. Do the non-starchy one. So I'm not saying 6 to 9 cups of, sweet potato. I'm saying like greens and broccoli and cauliflower and collards and celery and cooked cucumber. Yes, cooked cucumber. It's really freaking good. All of these beautiful things, eat them, cook a whole batch up and then eat it over a couple days. But I promise you, it is a magic that you probably can't even comprehend. Now, how do we nourish liver? So I'm going to give you a really simple, and this is my one deviation from the whole rule up above. Because people always, what are you saying? So my favorite remedy to soothe the liver and help open communication is something called carrot salad. 1 or 2 shredded carrots, half a teaspoon of coconut oil, a teaspoon of cider vinegar, mix it all up. This combination, well, carrots are a liver cheese soothing food, but this combination opens the flow of liver, helps thyroid conversion, helps the gut microbiome, helps build acetic acid and butyrate species in the gut, which actually helps the microbiome, helps clear toxic estrogen from the body. In fact, I have a client who had been working with the same naturopath forever, so sick, almost like literally at death. And this was one of the first things that we did. And when she went back to see her naturopath for labs, her ND was like, why are you doing so well? Like, I've never seen you do this well. And she told her what she'd been doing. She told her about the carrot salad. Her naturopath was so shocked at the impact of this simple food remedy that she was like, well, that's it. Like, all of my clients from here on out will be on carrot salad. it does insane things for such a simple effect. It is generally after cooked, Tanya, at least in the beginning, I would say, because people are like, what the what? Like if they try to do it. Because the question was, is it 6 to 9 cups of veggies before cooked or after? So then we move on to kidney. And here I'm going to give you a physical action, which is simply put your hands on your low back, just above your waist, over your kidneys. And as you do, you take a neat and soft breath and just settle for a moment. And then you breathe in and you make the sound hi, 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 hi. And you kind of like, you know, have an oomph with it, when you like you hi, hi, hi. This is the sound of the kidney, and it draws attention and energy direct into the kidney, which helps restore the movement. You can be nourished by the field and sound, and the language of the organs is important. This is the part of the language of the kidney. This is a really simple technique that if you did this daily, it would do wonders for your body. So Rosanna's asking, what can be replaced for the coconut oil in the carrot salad? Is that because coconut is an allergy? Okay. In that case, I guess I might go with a little bit. I might go with a little bit of avocado oil. It's not quite the same thing, but it would probably be the next, I guess, the next best. You could also do a little bit of macadamia nut oil if you're okay with that, but anybody who has nut problems couldn't do that. So then I would do avocado. Um, for how long for the kidney breathing exercise? Even, 3 minutes would be fantastic. Then we move on to chi. So everything that we've already done above for spleen, liver, and kidney are working on chi. So you've already got pieces in there. To amplify that, I might add some ginger, some turmeric, and some fennel in one meal a day, or spread it out. Breakfast has ginger, lunch has turmeric, however you want to do it. But those would be my assets to add to what I'm already doing above, because they're going to add that aromatic flavor and even the color, like the turmeric, that color that's very spleen oriented. So I would add those things in. To build blood, a couple things. The cooked veggies help build blood. So if you need to build blood, you definitely want to pay attention to that step. And you want to make sure that maybe 3 of those 6 is dark leafy greens so that you're getting those, even more of those blood building minerals in. And then if you want to boost that, you add liver to your routine every week, 4 ounces. Liver's such a medicine food. And even I myself, like right now, my body has me eating very little meat, but I still will do liver in capsule form because it is an amazing way to build the blood and to nourish with the fat soluble vitamins from a fat source. Because remember, if we don't build our blood, our spirit doesn't have a place to reside. So anyone who has, difficulty thinking, can't find their passion in life, can't find their desire, doesn't feel connected, can't find love for themselves, that's all signs of deficiency of spirit, and deficiency of spirit is often deficiency of blood, that you're not able to feel a connection because your blood is so insufficient that it's like there's nothing to hold the spirit. So you really want to take nourishing the blood very seriously. Ginger, turmeric, and fennel. Yeah, Krista. So, and the more you nourish blood, the less you'll have experience of things like hot flashes and insomnia and dryness and low libido, because it's all tied in. Now we talk about yin and yang. So this is a key part of the conversation, because what happens to a lot of us women is that we spend our life living from this hard masculine persona because we live in a world that kind of demands it of us. Well, and in a world that kind of oddly wants us to be soft and feminine and then also robust and kind of masculine at the same time. And not that there's anything wrong with achievement and being productive and doing a lot in your life, but it can be very taxing for women who have a yin nature. So women by nature are yin, men by nature are yang. And so if you have a yin nature and you don't get to indulge the yin essence of you, softness, play, beauty, pleasure, self-nourishing, then what happens is that nature starts to wither. And many of the menopausal symptoms, even hot flashes in Chinese medicine, are said to be, yin deficiency and often some yang deficiency, but there's like more yang than there is yin. So even though they're both depleted, you still got a little more fire. And so you're getting these hot flashes. And we need to nourish our yin. And from a life perspective, I find that nourishing yin has as much to do with how am I indulging in pleasure? How am I playing? How am I having spontaneous fun? How am I honoring my spirit? How am I indulging my creativity? Am I spending time in yin states, which means doing nothing, not the doing nothing of like reclining on the couch while you're scrolling the phone, while there's a movie on, while I don't know, you're also trying to answer emails or play a puzzle or whatever. It's literally states of doing nothing. Like, how often do you literally do nothing or empty your mind? So, silent meditation can be great here, but really, it is first and foremost like turning yourself off. So you're not ruminating. You're not sitting there thinking, like, spend time in nature, just staring at a tree or stare at the clouds or go for a walk with no earbuds and no telephone and none of the things. And just can you receive the nature around you every morning? Like, I get up in the morning and I go for a walk before I look at blue lights. It's part of my yin nature honoring, which I know some of you are thinking, like, she just said that she's walking, though. She's not doing nothing. But my mind is let to just receive the stillness of the moment. That is my intent. It is a sacred time for me. It's like walking meditation. And the benefit of getting up and having natural light, whether it's cloudy or rainy or sunny out, before you see the blue light, is again nourishing that yin nature of you. So maybe that's something you'd want to do, is say, oh, okay, like, so before I look at a phone or a computer or TV, I'm going to get natural light in my eyes, minimum of 10 minutes. 30 would be awesome. It also does wonders to reset the hormones and bring balance, because that natural light is diffusing straight into the brain and affecting pineal, hypothalamus, pituitary. And so you're inviting that in, but you're also invoking this yin nature where you're not actually there to accomplish. Please don't take that walk from the like, then I can get my steps in. It's not an accomplishment. That is not a yin focus. A yin focus is, I'm just going to receive this space. I'm just so, gosh, I wonder what it'll be like, or how I can experience it, or will it feel delightful, or what's the magic? It's that. It's this open curiosity and receiving. And then also spend time in stillness, even laying flat on the floor and seeing how much you can let the floor support you. That is a yin activity. Can you let every muscle go and let the floor hold you? Most people find when they go to do this that they're like, no. I actually found I had all these muscles tightened even when I was laying on the floor, almost like I didn't believe that the floor would hold me up. We know intellectually the floor will hold us up, but many of us are operating from this state of kind of like braced alertness. So even that is so key. Rosanna says, do you recommend a specific capsule liver formula? I really like ancestral supplements. They both have a liver one and they have a blood vitality one. Both are beautiful. So play with that nourishing of your yin and be so willing to encourage yourself to relax. Yeah, so Tanya, like laying on the floor, like that hurts. I have a big butt and it humps my back. Put a pillow under your legs. right? Like put a pillow under your legs and then see like, oh, okay, that'll help my back flatten. Then I can relax. But yeah, I love that you bring that up because, we're like, oh, that would be hard because of this, this, or this. And it's like, find the path to ease and easy. It doesn't have to be around sunrise. Although, I mean, there is some indication that that can be beneficial, but I find that literally, like, I don't always make it right at sunrise. Sometimes I lay in bed and read novels until I feel like getting up. So it's not always right at sunrise. But if you do that before you get the blue light, it still has that massive impact on the balance of our body. And then we talk about dampness. So dampness is such a key and amazing process that I literally have a whole program on dampness because it is not a one and done. However, the role of dampness is so significant because of the way that dampness can be used by the body to substitute for vital essences. If you aren't in Chinese medicine or have a history with it, that might sound really weird. Let's just say that you need lots of blood, like we've been talking about. You need lots of qi. If you're deficient in it, the way our body works, and I'll give you an example from minerals. If you don't have correct or sufficient mineral balance in your body, but you do have aluminum and lead, your body will actually shove aluminum and lead into your bones as substitute support elements because you're missing enough minerals to provide sufficient to satisfy the need of the bone. That's the way our body works. If you don't have enough of something, she tries to substitute with something else until her better options become available. This is also one of the reasons how some people's bones become weak, because guess what? Aluminum and lead don't make for great strong bones, but that's that result of the chronic stress response where we've drawn off the calcium because we produce osteocalcin. We've drawn off the calcium. When you live in chronic stress response, your body ends up putting calcium in the tissues, but not in the bones. And because then she thinks like we don't have enough calcium. So she starts taking extra from the bones under the effect of stress response. And then if you have those toxins in your body, she will fill some of the holes with those because she knows that you got to keep moving. So dampness is a lot like that. Like, oh, I don't have sufficient blood, so I'm going to use this substitute substance. Does it work the same? No. Is it as effective? No. But she needs you to participate in the nourishing of the blood and to stop depleting her so vastly. So if you don't know how to do that, she's going to use substitute substances. And the longer this goes on, if you're not replenishing and giving her a way to release the dampness and nourish herself, then what happens is that she will call for more dampness. So that's going to show up as like food cravings or, mood disruption. That means that every time I get sad, like I'm grabbing at this food or I'm smoking some weed or whatever it is. The coping mechanisms that we have, many of them are damp evoking. But the problem is that you have to be able to understand both how to work with the dampness, how to work with the emotions, how to work with the body, how to do the replenishing all simultaneously. Hence why it's a whole program. But one specific step you can take is to take out all excess fats that aren't inherently found in the food. And by food, I actually mean like there's fat found in eggs naturally, or there's fat found in beef naturally. But I'm not talking about there's fat found in an Oreo naturally, because, we added that. So that is one step that you can take. And my client, even butter, it depends on how much dampness someone has, Tanya. If someone has a lot of dampness, I might suggest they, sort of feel into the effect of taking out the butter. And dampness, remember, is going to show up as excess weight, sweating, cellulite, hormonal problems. So the more damp someone is, the more that step can literally mean take all the excess fats out, poach the eggs or cook in broth or cook in miso broth or steam things and take out the excess fats. My client Jan did this and found that doing this one thing with some other practices that we put in for her body and her cells, because her cells had that exaggerated stress response we talked about, had her going from hot flashes every 20 minutes to one per week, because as the dampness drained, her body no longer needed to produce that symptom. Because look, hot flashes are your body trying to like do a couple things. You get hot because she's trying to raise thyroid response, she's trying to burn off toxicity, and so, and she's trying to like spark response. And so when there was no longer those deficiencies there, the body didn't need to push and try to get her awareness, which means the hot flashes diminish. So it can be way easier than you think. And note, she didn't use hormones in that case. And then with emotions, the key is to feel things fully. Emotions, releasing emotions from the body is not going to someone and telling them all your woes. It is not rehashing the story with your best friend. It is not processing even by journaling in a lot of cases. In fact, a lot of journaling is entrenching the story. But processing emotions is supposed to come through the body. Your body's holding all these things. Your cells are holding them. Your organs are holding them. We need to process by actually letting ourselves feel the feeling. And so, again, this is a huge topic. But one thing you can do at the moment is that you could explore what it feels like to feel things all the way. Like, when you feel anger come up, can you let the feeling of it move in your body? Can you breathe into it, let it expand, let it get uncomfortable, let it get like where you want to jump out of your skin, and stay with it until the feeling dissipates, because it will dissipate. And do this over and over without going back into the story, without going into the whole narrative, without externalizing it and screaming at people, without needing to go find that person maybe that you're upset with and tell them all the reasons that they did you wrong, but actually just feeling it as a solitary practice, which, like in the case of anger, is then going to soothe the liver, open the flow, which makes it more possible for the liver not only to detox, but also to move the blood, move the chi. So the expansive effects of doing things through the body are exponential. Each of those practices we just went through, spleen, cooked vegetables, liver, carrot salad, kidney, the hands on the kidney exercise with the sound high, adding ginger, turmeric, and fennel to your food for chi, adding leafy greens and potentially liver for your blood, doing yin-based practices to nourish yin and soothe the yang, and then removing excess fat to help drain the dampness, and then feeling things fully to work with emotions. If you chose to do all of those, I am 100% certain that you would actually notice positive change in your body. These are the things that I incorporate, like I said, with all of my clients, as we assess their cells, as we find their patterns. These are tools that we use with them all the time. And we, of course, use many others and work on this and keep going into the layers. But these tools will show you, if nothing else, they will prove to you that there's more to menopause than, oh, look, my estrogen and progesterone are low. It is really, truly an invitation to the magic of you, to the infinite capacity of your body, to the unending ability for things to change. I myself was having horrific hot flashes until I made some of these changes and some others specific to my constitution, and things abated massively, as well as, massive weight loss at the edge of perimenopause, because my body and I finally partnered at a much deeper level. So I just want you to know, like, they say that these things are inevitable. They're not inevitable. Those are the words from a medical system that doesn't believe in you, that does not believe in your power, that does not believe in your infinite ability to heal, that does not believe in your aliveness as a foundation, does not believe in your body as a living miracle. But to me, your body is sacred ground. It's holy space. It's the temple of the divine. If there's no way that it's meant to be a frustrating burden in our lives, no way. And it's not just about pathways. All the talk that focuses just on pathways to me is so dry and boring, because it's like, when are we going to talk about your life force? There's nothing in focusing on one pathway that really spurs your life force, but focusing on the being and the story of your cells and what your body's trying to communicate, that's pretty juicy to me because it encompasses everything about our existence. So go play, find the play with the things long enough that you give your body a chance to respond. And truly, that's about 100 days. I know that is like, what? But it often takes that long for your body to feel safe to reveal to you that she's willing to change. Because if you just pop in and you were like, well, I had extra vegetables for like 5 days and I didn't notice the difference. So I doubt that's it, which is something I see a lot of people do. Or I did carrot salad for a week and it didn't make a difference. So I quit it. That model is one fueled by distrust of the body and expectation. Oh, she didn't respond right away. I'm out. That is an abusive relationship. So I just want to encourage you to not maintain previous patterns of expectation and performance for your body and actually see her as a living, breathing aliveness who, if you learn to partner with, literally your life would become unlimited. And so give it time, make a commitment, and stick with it. I went through menopause 18 years ago. Is it ever too late to regain a connection with my body? No, no. Are you kidding? She's like, I just felt like your body sitting there, Rosanna, like, oh my God, yay. Rosanna, I would love to play. That's like the sense that I always get. I feel like our bodies are always like, I just think you're the coolest thing I've ever known. And I would love to play with you. Yeah, the 100-day encouragement. I'm so glad that felt good to you, Tanya. It's and like if you know, it's like if you fall off the wagon, don't beat yourself up. Just say like, oh, well, I'm gonna go back into that, see what happens. What's in the carrot salad again? Shredded carrots, coconut oil, and apple cider vinegar. You can add spices if you desire, yes. I'm like over 5 years past menopause too. There's hope. Yay. Yeah, right? Like it's yes, there's always hope. There's always hope. Our body would love to play in the space with us. Do you guys have any other questions? I know we covered a lot here, but beans, rice, farro, lentils are these veggies? No, those would be, of course, legumes and grains. So amazing. And also really good for balancing hormones. But I'm talking like, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, greens, daikon radish. I'm trying to think of all the things I've eaten in the past week, right? Green beans, anything like that, like garden grown. You would want to eat the carrot. Oh, I don't even think I said that. I'm glad you asked. You would want to eat the carrot salad as a snack once a day or at the beginning of a meal. So it's like going through your digestive tract first and on its own. Um, some starchy veggies totally okay. It's just that I've accidentally watched some people hear veggies and then their love is for starchy things. So they're like, well, I had 4 cups of sweet potato today. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. But sweet potato even can be a little damp evoking. So I always kind of steer them back towards, let's do some of the let's have the bulk of it be non-starchy. Like if we were doing 9 cups, it's like when you really want to have that be the non-starchies, you could add the starchies with them, but you want to have that because the mineral density. Beets are starchy and so good. So that would be like a great thing to add in though. I do beets all the time with in a miso broth, like I steam my veggies in a miso broth, and I'll do, dark greens and broccoli, and I love daikon radish, and then I'll do some beets in there too. Squash, like summer squash, like zucchinis and stuff are they're great, but they are really water rich if you have a lot of dampness, not so great. Winter squash would sort of again fall in the starchy side of the character. I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm actually talking about like a diet that's protein and veggie only. Um, we need the carbohydrates. They make a huge difference on thyroid function. They also help lower stress response. So I'm only talking that much non-starchy veggie for the nourishing it does to spleen and the mineral density it provides. Then you'd want to pair that with carbohydrate-rich foods as well. What other questions? Renee, can you type that? Oh, yeah, cucumber is great. If you guys haven't had cooked cucumber, it's unbelievable. It's so good. So good, especially like even just steamed, and then you can put some that Korean I'm gonna say it incorrectly, but the gochujang, Gouchang, I don't know. Sauce on it. Oh my God, they're so good. Pickles, um, they're okay. Yeah, there you go. Rocio knew how to with the sauce Gochujang. Yeah, I was so far off. Yeah, spelling is not my thing. Um, Pickles would not be like a primary to me. However, if you can find some, like there's around me, there's like a local company that does like fermented cucumbers. So, it's like a pickle, but it's slightly different. That would be a great way to add a little bit of the probiotic rich fermented food in, but from a vegetable. Well, it's technically like a melon, right? Cucumbers are technically a melon, but anyway, from a neat source. Who else? I'm making kimchi for the first time right now. Yay. Yes. Kimchi is incredible. That's like my favorite fermented food. So no vinegar in the ingredients. It's how you know it's naturally fermented. Yep, that's exactly how you'll know. Yeah, Rosie was like, yum, kimchi. Yeah, like kimchi is another, like, that's a fan. I love to put kimchi with so many different kinds of things. It's definitely one of my favorite foods. Any other questions? I just want to make sure that you guys get your questions answered because that's one of the perks of being here live. So damp people who feel dehydrated, are those watery? So such a great question, Tanya. Damp people who feel dehydrated, are those watery veggies okay and you just pee out the excess? Actually, no. So this is such a great question. I'm glad you asked. Many damp people feel dehydrated because when they drink, all the water and fluid is going straight into the dampness. So it's sort of like the rest of your body's going, hello, I need some moisture. And it all is getting sequestered. So the key there is to actually start getting the dampness to understand what it is. And truly, like this requires working with connection with your body, because if we try to evict the dampness, it actually has the opposite effect. It's like your body feels attacked. But if you do more, like if you cut out the excess fats, a lot of times people start to feel like, why am I so hydrated? And it's because now you're not feeding the dampness as much, so it actually lets your body circulate the moisture better. You're welcome, Laura. What about meat? What's best to eat and how to prepare them? So, meat is something like constitutionally I look at for each person to kind of see, but I would say as a rule of thumb, not eating huge amounts would be the first thing, like not eating like you don't want to eat like a 12-ounce steak or something because it's way more protein than we can digest. And when we eat too much, we're going to create a stress response and disrupt mineral balance. So I would do, truly grass-fed, pasture-raised sources so that you're actually hopefully getting animals that have a better fatty acid profile because they've been eating their native diet. And then I would cook things like pressure cooker or, you know, like roasts that are cooked in moisture or stews, like things that kind of like break it down. softly and slowly, and then like make sure you're eating that with mineral rich foods like lots of vegetables. And then you also, would want to maybe have some fermented foods. I mean, it all depends on constitution, but that's what I would say. Like lean cuts, not cooked in a lot of fat, cook them in like broths and things like that. Not eating huge amounts, have the bulk of the plate be based off of those mineral rich foods. And then that's added in as medicine, because it is medicine, but it's not meant to be like this bolus of protein and fat. Is it beneficial to remove dairy? It all depends on the person. So this is where learning to connect to our body makes a big difference. Some people actually really do better with the dairy, and other people do better without it. So that's got to be done on a case by case. Is that a mineral balance issue? I don't know if I'm following the thread. Are you talking about the eating the watery, like not releasing the water? Um, Yeah, okay. It is somewhat a mineral balance issue, but it's a stress response issue. So what it actually tells us is that the cells have been stuck in stress response for a long time, which has altered the functional response of the tissue compartment, which means the tissue compartment is sluggish and chock full of a whole bunch of stuff, which is what dampness really is. And that the body keeps trying to dilute it because she knows she doesn't have the capacity to move it, because there isn't enough chi and blood to keep the organs draining, which means she's going to sequester until she gets the information that it's safe to do that drainage, which is a mineral balance issue, but then it's also a stress response issue, because the stress response that the cells are experiencing is what is keeping everything on lockdown, which is why, I mean, you can sort of see like when we do this, it's multifocal for a reason, because it isn't just a one thing. But that's a great question. What is the best source of protein for vegetarians? I would say it's many things. I mean, I love legumes for vegetarians. Um, so any of the beans. I also find that tofu can be a beautiful food, and as long as it's organic, and tempeh can be a beautiful food. Um, and then of course there's quite a bit of protein, in many of the whole grains, and so that I would focus on those sources. I'm not a fan of any of like the weird fake substitutes. It's just processed food, no different than eating other processed food, actually. Great questions, you guys. Fantastic questions. Any other questions? You guys got your wisdom caps on today. You're asking like really fantastic questions to let, so that everyone can sort of dive deeper. Raspberry leaf tea is a great remedy. I didn't bring it in this one, Melissa. I'm glad you asked that, because if constitutionally it matched your constitution, that's great. But like other constitutions, they'd be better off with like red clover, which is also a hormone balancing tea. But it all depends on the constitution. And then there's another constitution that would be better with um, parsley tea, which is also hormonal balancing, but it all depends on the constitution. So yeah, it works really well for you because it matches your constitution, right? So those, raspberry leaf, parsley, fennel, and red clover are all teas that I might use with women, but I do base it off their constitution. So when people work with me, like one-to-one or in group, like Thriving Health, we address that. Um, you could do either. You could cook with fennel, or you could have it as a tea. I would go less so towards tincture, because I'm thinking of it in this case as a food. So I really, really like to kind of like stay with that theme of food. I don't recommend a lot of nuts in this instance, because I don't know if someone's got a lot of dampness. So if you've got a lot of damp, you don't want to do nuts until you've worked with the dampness. And avocado is a really cold, damp food. So if you have a lot of coldness in your system, weakness in your spleen, dampness in your system, I actually don't rank avocado as a big medicine food until you've been able to harmonize those things. If you go a long time without a hot flash, then you have one again. It's just more the body trying to communicate versus a menopause symptom. Great question. So that I find is often, it can be a couple things. I always have people check in with how stressed are you? What is there a lot up in your life? Are there things you need to go feel? Because that might be your body communicating that. The other thing is that sometimes it's the body, like it can be a seasonal thing. So in the winter, it could be the body trying to boost some thyroid function. But again, I'm still curious what the stress response is. And then the other thing is that sometimes I found it's because the body's moving through another layer. So women who are working with me in healing, that sometimes will happen. And it's because their body's like, oh, I'm about to dive through this other layer of gunk that we didn't have the capacity to get to before, but now we're going to get to it. And you might have some hot flashes as the body clears that. So it can be multi-layered, but that was a great question. Any other questions? I just so appreciate you guys asking such insightful things. It's magical. It's my favorite thing to like sit there and be able to kind of like cover many things. The role of rice. Um, Rice, I feel, is a very distinct medicinal food. And part of it, I mean, even the original character for qi in Chinese medicine was grains of rice in a bowl. I mean, it's part of the lineage, and every culture, of course, has had their grain of medicine. I mean, the Southwest and down into Mexico, it was always the masa. That corn is, the staple, and they're revered as medicines because they are medicines. Um, so I actually feel like rice can be a foundationally amazing medicinal food, and can be so nourishing, especially for people with really weak spleens. And so, like cooked in congee, or maybe just as like a base food to meals, can be fantastic for nourishing that spleen. Would adding a pinch of sea salt and water help with balancing mineral for a damp constitution? So I'm glad you asked that, because I'm not the biggest fan of the whole salt and water thing. I get the premise. It's funny because I will use like salt with um some orange juice and coconut water as a remedy for a stressed system, but I don't like it as much in water. And I just it's always felt off to me. I don't have like some scientific thing that I can quote to you on that. It just has always felt a bit off, a bit stimulating, actually. So that's what it is that salt can be overstimulating. And I, for some reason, find that when it's paired in water, it seems a little stimulating to the nervous system. So that usually is not the place that I would add it. If in terms of water in a damp constitution, one other thing you can do is drink it boiled. So you can drink hot water in small sips. That's amazing for damp constitution and really nourishing to the body. It warms the spleen. So that would probably be the direction I would go. Lemon is also hit or miss. So lemon is stimulating to the liver. And so it depends. Like sometimes lemon water can be an asset, but sometimes it's like it pushes on the liver. And so if your liver's feeling exhausted, that might be too much stimulation. So I would play with like, how does my body really respond? And what's the sensation, and how does that feel? It's not something that I think is amazing for everybody. And I don't even think that it's amazing as an everyday thing for most people. Anything else? So, I mean, If it was possible, Tanya, do you feel all organic is essential? If it's possible, yes. For a lot of people, that is not a possibility. So if it's not a possibility, then I would say, go to sort of like the dirty dozen list and have that as your background, like your basis. And I think buying as much local as possible can also be a great asset in that regard, although not necessarily perfect. But it's not necessarily possible, and it's not possible in all areas all year. I mean, it's not. I remember my daughter asked me to get her organic zucchini. I literally had to go to like 4 stores to find organic zucchini that time. I mean, it's not always possible in the middle of winter. No celery juice either. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Um, it's that again, kind of overstimulating, very damp, actually, very damp evoking. Dark chocolate or 100% cacao. That's actually a beautiful medicinal food. It's bitter in flavor, so it helps to clear heat. It's also mineral rich. And so I actually, and it's, I think cacao is actually really beautiful for the brain. So good food. We just buy frozen organic vegetables because we don't have access here. Yep, like so do I. It's like that I will use a ton of to make it a little easier. Yeah. And then of course when summer comes, I'm like, woohoo. Um, Kombucha is a great food, but I will say that some people don't function very well with the lacto fermentation. So they usually use lactobacillus in a kombucha. Um, It's often the dominant microorganism. And I will say some people do not respond well to that organism. And so this is why I tend to personally like gear more towards fermented vegetables. And anything like kombucha, I just say a couple ounces, at most at a time. And just know that it would be normal if kombucha doesn't feel great to you. And I would focus. I like the fermented vegetables because of the mineral content and their other attributes. Yeah, I love kombucha when I've noticed that when I drink it, I often don't feel great. Yes, there you go. See, that's that. You're not alone. I always thought like it was weird because it was like, but it's supposed to be so good for you. But then I was doing a bunch of research and it was like many people actually have negative responses to the lactobacillus. Yeah, honey is beautiful. Honey is a great medicine food. It is the one sweetener that does not promote dampness. It's partially because it's so hot in nature, like it's energetically hot, but it's also like magic. I mean, honey's medicine, I mean, such big medicine. So yeah, that is a beautiful food. Yeah, right, Jen, I totally get it. Honey is too sweet. I totally get that sentiment. Maple syrup, also a medicine food, also, a really beautiful food, a little more damp evoking, but also a beautiful true medicine. I like drinking magic. That could be, you need a tea mug that says, I like drinking magic. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, right. You would find it. That would be so fun. Yeah. Any other questions? I really, this has been so fun for me. When Spirit said you're going to go teach this class, I was like, okay, like that sounds like fun. Let's go do that. So, this has been a sheer delight, and I really have the intention and the hope that for anyone that starts to play with these things, you start to feel the possibilities of your body and her true unlimited nature and all that's truly able to be experienced, and you're deserving of it. So give yourself that, really honor that unlimited nature of you. Melissa, this has been fun. Yay. Great class and information. I'm so glad. Looking forward to playing for the next 100 days. Thank you for sharing your light. Yay, Rosanna, I look forward to hearing how that goes too. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Kristen. You're welcome, Krista. It's really been a delight. What about intermittent fasting for dampness? Oh, great question. No, I would say no. Intermittent fasting can sometimes really actually amplify dampness because at that point, if we're ever fasting from that perspective of we're externally setting the timeline, like we're telling our body, like, no, we're only eating between these hours and these hours. That ends up feeling like control to the body, and our body really, like, part of the reason why many of us have disrupted systems is because we've been trying to control our body our whole lives to some degree or another. And so I actually find that resolving dampness for many people requires actually learning what her true needs are in terms of food. Like if we, most people don't realize, but like depending on body and constitution, cell state, and all that, but especially a lot of people choose to like either not eat breakfast or they'll, finish eating really early. But then, and they kind of see it as a rule. And it's like, but if your body needs extra fuel, she's being told she's not allowed to ask for it. And even if she does, you're going to ignore her. That feedback, think about what that feedback is to her. I don't care what you have to say. I don't want to know. I just have my intended goal, right? So it might be like, I'm not eating to eliminate hot flashes, or I want this menopause belly to go away. So I'm going to only eat for 6 hours a day and not any other time. That doesn't allow her to speak if she needs the fuel. Like she might be like, do you know how many processes I'm working on? And you're telling me I don't get fuel, that I have to figure it out. Guess what happens when we give her no other options? Her figuring it out looks like her turning down the amplitude of your cell response. She lowers thyroid response because thyroid response actually takes quite a lot of fuel. She lowers metabolic efficiency. She lowers use of minerals. Now we're further into the pit, and we thought, no, 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 I did that so I'd get leaner or my hot flashes would diminish or something. And the truth is what we've just made her do is adapt in directions that we don't want to go. So it is something that I see a lot of women try to do. And I actually find there's so often so much more abundance in learning how to feed her according to her principles and listen to her voice than there is in controlling the eating window. Yeah, it's about being in discipline from the mental state, but not listening to the body. Yep, exactly. I don't get a lunch break. I just eat whenever I can. Will she understand that? Yeah, just talk to her. So Tanya, like, I love that question because what we don't realize is like we can talk to our body and we can say, hey girl, like, so today, I totally get it. I'm really sorry that work doesn't allow us a lunch break. I promise you I'm going to eat here. I promise you I'm going to eat here. You go ahead and like nudge me if there's any other ways that I can support you. Even in doing that, your body just went, oh, I love her so much. Okay. But it's when we go, no, it's just a thing. Like, we're just going to have to do it. That she's kind of like, okay, all right. And then it's that contraction. We're looking to not and have so much of that contracting essence. So I love that you asked that. Beautiful, beautiful. Anything else? I love that you emphasize partnership with our body in such an intimate way. Absolutely. I love that you love it. This is, to me, we can do anything from partnership, but very little from, just kind of like forcing stuff on her. You're welcome, Pat. It has been a sheer blessing. I'm wondering, how do you feel about Himalayan salt? I read it can have a lot of lead. Yeah, right. There's an interesting conundrum. I have classically been more of a fan of Celtic sea salt and Redmond salt. Um, I haven't ever, something never drew me to Himalayan salt. I got to be honest. And it's an oddity, and I'm not saying it's across the board that this is true, but usually if my body will give me her yes, no really easily. And for some reason, she never wanted me to buy Himalayan salt. So I don't know. But I do, Celtic sea salt is my absolute favorite. And a friend of mine actually knows the owner of that company, and they're super high in integrity because friend that knows the owner of the company actually herself had an extra certification where she would vet companies for truly being organic and standard and ethical for the planet and for people, and she loves their salt. So um can these things work for men as well? Yeah, none of these techniques would be harmful to a man and would certainly enhance their vitality as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, me too, Krista. Love the Celtic sea salt. Well, my friends, I just hope that you have the most delicious day and that some of these things like start to roll through. Play with it from a curiosity perspective. Gosh, what would it be like for me to play with these principles? I encourage you to not set out like, I'm going to go tomorrow and do all these things perfectly. Instead, be like, oh, wow. Gosh, I wonder how that will feel to my body. I wonder what else I'll learn about her from playing with these things. And how could this be so fun? And how could this be filled with delight? And how could this just feel like play and nourishing and expansion? If you can play from that place, oh gosh, it does wonders. So I encourage you to play and approach with gentleness and curiosity. And I really would love to hear too. So if you feel like sharing how these things impact you, I would also love it if anyone feels open to it to share your biggest takeaways. Like if you'd be willing to shoot me a Facebook message or an email, because I just love to see like what landed, what we might want to expand if I teach this class again, and what meant the most to you, just so I can continue to grow as a presenter as well, because that is definitely my heart's mission. So I appreciate you. Thank you for being here and have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.